Healing didn't look like I thought it would. It looked like moving north to the far north, falling in love, and starting over with dirt and animal flesh on my hands. This is who I am now. I'm glad you're here again. You made it. We're at part 3 of the Resurrection Trilogy. It's been really wonderful to hear from people who have been tuning in. It's actually been a couple of weeks, maybe more, 3 weeks, since I recorded episode 2 of this trilogy, and I'm glad I had that space. It's interesting because I have actually felt that release that I was hoping for, where these memories, this trauma kept rattling around in my head like over and over, and it's gone. Yeah, there's like a piece that feels so much lighter. I'm still going through a lot, but yeah, that was a piece that was really heavy and was taking up a lot of space in my mind and my system. And it feels I haven't even finished. We're going to finish that story today. And I didn't even need to. It was just actually getting this podcast out and telling a big part of my story already that has brought a pretty big shift, which is really cool. And yeah, I've had a lot more insight into my health over the past few weeks too. I think I'm going to have to do an entire podcast on it. I'm going to, actually. I've been using ChatGTP as my health coach, and I have gotten more insight into what's happening with me than I have with the dozens, hundred, I don't know how many health professionals I've seen in my life. So yeah, I'm going to share a little bit about that because it's going to be like an ongoing journey, but I feel like, I don't know, the clarity is so huge for me. So huge. Yeah. I'll jump into that later. I'm going to dive back into the story. So I think where I left off was coming back to life and this big torrent of creativity that was just coursing through my veins. Yeah, it was an interesting time. Like now that I think back, like even though it was still really difficult and I had to take medication every day just to get through the day, and there was still a lot of symptoms and sensations and things. It was this really cool feeling to also just wake up in the morning and do whatever the fuck I wanted. Like I haven't had an experience like that, I don't know, since I was a kid, right? Like a little kid. Because there was always something. Like you have to get up, you have to go to school when you're a kid, you have to go to university, you have to work, you have meetings. My calendar used to be like I would have to schedule like breathing time into my day. And it was such a weird shift. I remember it was really scary when I first got sick and everything just came to a halt, right? Like I had lost a previous business and then no work was coming in with my other one. Thank God. But that was really scary at the time. And I, yeah, just from being so busy all the time to just nothing. It's so weird. And for a lot of that portion, I was really, really unwell and unable to do anything really. But as I started feeling a lot more functional, it was nice. What do I feel like doing this morning? What do I feel like doing today? It really is such a luxury, that level of freedom. And it's something that I really value. And now moving forward in my life, that's something that I'm really going to have to protect. I still do a lot in human design. I'm a manifesting generator. So it's like I always have a million things that I want to be creating and on the go, but I have to be really mindful of my energy and my system. Actually, maybe I'll just dive into what I've discovered and what's going on with me. So I think this was a big contributor to this break that I had. In past episodes, I talk about how I've struggled with health stuff my whole life. And it feels like this curse. But this curse has shown me all of these paths to healing all of these things that I've tried. And not much has really worked, to be honest, like other than really slowing down. But still, there's still something wrong. So I'd been working with my naturopath for a year. It was just a few months ago, and she suggested that we do some blood work. And I told her that back in, I think it was 2019, I was diagnosed with something called hyperaldosteronism, or PA, primary aldosteronism. It's also called Conn syndrome. I've had high blood pressure since my 20s, and no healthcare practitioner that I had seen, and I had seen many over this time, had recommended that I look into it any further, which is weird. I had gained a lot of weight at one point, and so I thought it was that, and then I'd lost the weight, but it was still high, and then I moved overseas and traveled for a long time, and then when I eventually moved back to Canada, I was like, maybe I should look into this. And so I went to my GP, and he's, yeah, that's not normal, and did some tests and found out that, yeah, that I don't want to say I have a disease. I truly feel like everything can be healed. There has to be some sort of root cause. But yeah, I was diagnosed with this thing. And as far as I knew, because it was never explained to me, it was just something that caused high blood pressure, which is like not good, right? But I didn't think it was attributing to all of this other stuff that I had been experiencing. So I went on medication for this. I was put on something called spironolactone, and it's an androgen blocker. So basically, with this issue, my adrenals produce a ton of aldosterone. Aldosterone is responsible for managing fluids in our system, and it's also a hormone, right? So when it's out of whack, other things are out of whack. Mine is like through the roof. And to manage it, you have to go, all they have are androgen blockers. And I have looked high and low for natural alternatives for this. And unfortunately, there's nothing. So I ended up going on this medication. I was on it for maybe a couple of years. And I ended up, like, my cycle was just totally messed up. Like, I started getting like 3 periods a month. My boobs hurt all the time. And I was just like, okay, fuck this. So I stopped taking it. And that's around the time that I started working with the health practitioner that I mentioned before. And it was like, yeah, we can fix anything. And I'm like, great. Turns out now that I've learned more about this, well, I was encouraged to get tested again by my naturopath. Test results came back and she was like, this is like not good. You are going to have a stroke. I don't even know how you're functioning. And this is 100% why you're dealing with a lot of the things that you're dealing with. So, like, I've gained 50 pounds. Oh, there's a wasp. I've gained like 50 pounds in the past few months. Like, I've always dealt with this weird, like, my legs are really swollen. Turns out it's not fat. It, it's water, which I knew. Because I'm like, why am I so puffy? It's so frustrating. But basically what happens now that ChatGPT has explained it all to me because nobody else has, this issue fucks up your kidneys, fucks up your liver, can destroy your cardiovascular system, creates constant fight or flight in the body because you just have this low grade issue all the time. For me, I think my detox pathways are compromised. And so this work that I was doing with this other healthcare practitioner was truly poisoning me the entire time. It's so frustrating. And I think the lesson here is, I don't know, you even have to be careful with natural health stuff. It was so confusing for me because we were doing homeopathy, which is supposed to be so gentle. But it really fucked up my system. Really fucked up my system. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to unpack more of that later. Anyway, so I'm on this new medication now, and it's supposed to be have less interference with hormones. My blood pressure is starting to come down. I really love using ChatGTP because I'm still getting like these energy crashes and whatever, and it can explain what's happening in my system, which really like settles me down. It also gives me timelines for things too, which is really helpful. It's okay, so this is what you can expect for the next 3 months, right? Then at this point, these things are going to be shifting. Then we can start integrating this into that. So that's been a huge game changer for me. Yeah. And I think also having that awareness now too has shifted my nervous system and has helped to alleviate some of those lingering symptoms, like the heart pounding and the while exhausted, right? And the internal tremors and that sort of thing. Yeah. So that's what I'm currently dealing with. And it fucking sucks because they're just like, oh, yeah, it's genetic, right? It can also be caused by like a benign tumor on the adrenal glands. I had a scan and I don't have that, unfortunately, because that could just be removed and then usually people go back to normal. But yeah, this is an issue that most people go undiagnosed for 20, 30 years. Yeah, and that is certainly my case. Very frustrating. But when we talk about genetics, right, like I think epigenetics. So what is the energetic tie to this? Like, what are all of these other things? But I know that it's something that really, truly does need to be managed. At this point, I do have some kidney damage from 40 years of however long it started of just unchecked raging blood pressure. So, yeah, I don't know how much damage has already been done, but I certainly feel it on a daily basis. I have to be really careful. I did a farmer's market over the weekend and crashed because I had to lift some heavy things. And that's really hard. But I can also see now how my behavior has contributed to getting to this point because I didn't know any of this stuff and like, how would you? But the exercise intolerance that I've struggled with my whole life, or at least for the past 15, 20 years, all of these things where I just thought, this doesn't make sense. I should be able to do it. And so I'd push myself so hard to do it and pay the price. I never understood why I couldn't do the things that other people could do. And now I know why. Now I know why. Yeah. So anyway, now you know that piece. It'll probably come up in subsequent episodes because I'm going to continue to look for natural solutions for this too. We'll see how this medication goes. So far it's okay. I've definitely had some hormonal shifts, but yeah, things are coming along. Okay, so back into jumping into the story and moving up north and all these things. I want to start with talking about reconnecting with my therapist. So this was really crazy. I'd been seeing a therapist for a couple of years, as I feel like everybody should be. And when I got sick, I stopped seeing her for some reason. I think I was just so overwhelmed and I was doing all the somatic therapy and I thought that's all I needed. I don't know. Maybe there was some level of shame or something in there, but I just stopped seeing her. And then I really felt pulled to reach out. So we connected and oh my God, I'm so glad I did. She went through something similar. So she shared that she had done a plant medicine journey. I think she'd went to Peru or something and got home. It was a few days later and her system snapped. And she also experienced like, and I don't know how she did. She had kids, right? And I know people who have gone through this with kids. You don't know what's going on, right? Like you think you're fucked like this forever. And some people are for a very long time. And she made it out. And so I found like so much, I don't know, every time I connected with someone who went through something like this, it was just like, I don't know, it really helped. I think because with nervous system stuff, like you're even very suggestible when you're in such a heightened state. So it's actually, you have to be really careful not to be in spaces where people are complaining about their symptoms or like talking about new symptoms because you will actually develop those things, which is really wild. But me being the research person that I am, like I went way into all the things and ended up with, I don't know, I had 60 some symptoms or something. At one point, it was absolutely, ugh, it was terrible. But anyway, it was so great to have her support again. And she was just like, why didn't you reach out? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know what to do. And she's, I should have reached out. And anyway, we're continuing to work together. And it's been such a wonderful support to have people who like just understand what the fuck you're going through is so important when you're in a space like this. Yeah. So that was really lovely. And it didn't take me too long where I felt like, okay, I think I can make it up to the north now and to go to my sister's place. I actually packed up a U-Haul because I had been doing all of this thrifting and stuff to do this renovation on my sister's RV. And I don't even know how I was doing all of this physical stuff. Because I went from, I had no muscle left. It was so crazy. If you've ever met me in person, like, I'm not a small woman. I've always been like big boned. Like even if I'm don't have a lot of weight on, yeah, I'm not small. And I've always had this really big butt. And when I was like really sick, because I was bedridden, right? And I had no ass. Like my ass was completely flat. It was so weird. It's so weird to see your body change so quickly. It's just the most bizarre thing. It's really scary actually. But yeah, I think I was just taking things slowly and I know I had to take lots of breaks and things like that. But yeah, I actually hauled a U-Haul all the way from southern BC to northern BC, which is like a 12-hour drive. Did I do it in 2 days? Yeah, I think I might have. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I stopped at a family friend's place halfway through and stayed the night. And yeah, it was a good journey. I made it. And I was really excited to just focus on artwork and creating here. So the space that I'm currently in right now, if you're on Spotify, you can see it. This is the sunroom at my sister's place, and she graciously let me take it over and turn it into a studio. And that's when I first started working with skulls. I had picked some up, or I picked up a couple from my cousin who hunts down south, and I just had this vision for creating art with these skulls. And it's so weird. I've never been into skull art. I was really inspired as I was driving around in the Okanagan just before I'd left for the north and seeing the thistle. There's like big thistle and the flowers. It's like these round flowers. They're balls, purple coming out and covered in thorns. And I'm just like, those look like eyes. And I'm like, I want to set those into a deer skull and just see what I make. So when I got up here, I started ordering things. I started flower pressing. I was learning how to preserve botanicals in new ways and just making physical art. And that was so therapeutic, so helpful. Like it got my mind off of things. Like I was still in a space of like heavy trauma and recounting things all the time. And how did this happen to me? How did this happen to me? Like just, yeah, really traumatized still. And working with my hands, which is not something that I'm used to. I'm used to working online. And being online was just really harmful for my system at that time. And the opposite turned out to be really therapeutic. So I was able to continue to forage and I was creating some apothecary things too, and in small ways, but I just felt really called to start working with plants in a new way and learning about a whole other level of plant medicine. Again, I work with plants in so many ways now and creating art and jewelry and even the apothecary stuff. Like it's just all so nourishing for me and also gives people a lot of joy, which is great. And the renovation too. Like I learned how to do so many things. Like I'd never really worked with tools and stuff. Like when I was in art school years ago, I remember making my own canvases and stuff and having to use some tools, but I started using all these tools and I became inspired to start working with botanicals and resin and noticed that the tools that I was using doing these renovations, I was now using doing these resin pieces. And so it was just all weaving together in this really interesting way. Yeah. And I think that was also really good for my brain too. Just creating those new neural pathways, learning new skills, trying new things, creating new things. Yeah. And so I still had to be in like this huge space of trust because, again, like no work was coming in, right? And I also went through this huge identity crisis of who the fuck am I now? I was closing in on my 40th birthday, and I'm like, I guess I'm just like gonna be single forever and live with my fucking little sister and be a weird artist that hates dead animals. Like, I don't fucking know. I don't know. And it was cool because I got to really embrace like the weirder side of me and feel really unapologetic about it because I had just gone through so much. And like when you go through something like that, it's like you don't fucking care anymore. You just don't. The little things that you get to enjoy after going through something like that is just, yeah, it just changes your perspective so much on everything. And I had to envision a new life for myself and again, just fall into that level of trust that I was being asked to fall into. And I was still in the space where I didn't know if I would ever be normal again. I bought a bunny. We went to the fall fair. There's a highlight on my Instagram for anybody that's hasn't followed along. But yeah, I just decided to double down on the eccentric artist thing and got myself a bunny. Her name was Flower. I also called her Bun Bun. And we took her to Haida Gwaii. We went to Haida Gwaii for my birthday. And I made a little spot for her in the beautiful renovated RV and took her to fucking Haida Gwaii. And we met some really interesting people. And it was such a vibe just having my little bunny on a leash. And my God, I knew nothing about bunnies. And they have huge personalities. They're very spiteful. We fought a lot. She's so cute, but we also fought a lot. She had a really big spirit. And yeah, that was such a funny time. The trip was wonderful. And it was actually such a huge thing for me because I had wanted to go to Haida Gwaii for some time. And in like my deepest, darkest moment where I was meditating myself into some sense of calm the night, like every night, every night I couldn't sleep. I had to take just like handfuls of like pills to try to get any sort of sleep. And most nights I would be up in just the most, I don't know, there was just so much terror. There was so much unknown. And I would envision me walking. Everything was like just one step at a time, just one step at a time. And I would envision bear paws. And I would envision like being that bear and being in the forest in Haida Gwaii and just hoping to God one day I'd be able to get there. So to be there for my birthday was just like, whoa, this is in the fucking psych ward a few months ago. I don't know how this happened. But it was, yeah, it felt really miraculous. It's such a beautiful, special place. And I actually fell in love with that whole region, the drive out there. There's a little town we drove through that I would actually love to move to. But yeah, it was a very full circle moment. It was interesting too because I, it was around this time that I started seeing when people and situations were good for me in relation to how my nervous system would react. So because it was so sensitized, I could gather a lot of information that I maybe normally would just pass off before. I met somebody when I was on Haida Gwaii and just had this little fling thing, and I mean, it had been a long time since I had engaged with a guy in any way. And it was interesting because when we left, my system started doing really weird things. Like I got extremely exhausted and I have these ups and downs of feeling really giddy and then exhausted. And it wasn't right. Something was just not right. And it turned out that guy was like bad news. And it was really upsetting for a minute. And then I got over it. But I was like, whoa, okay, this is interesting. And so that leads me into meeting my partner, my current partner.
Hey, quick interruption. If you're into wildly beautiful things made with wildflowers and maybe a bone or two, you'll love what I'm creating over at magicmaven.com. This is where apothecary meets art, preserved floral jewelry, wild crafted botanical potions, and tiny treasures that you didn't know you needed, but you definitely do. All handcrafted by me with a whole lot of intention. So go have a peek after this episode, get lost in my wonderland, add to cart, and yes, there is a discount code waiting for you in the show notes. Bring home something wild and totally you.
So this was in October. Yeah. So it'd been almost an entire year since I had first gotten sick. And I was working on this piece behind me, my Bison's Fall. And I needed something to hang it, as you can see. And what I had wasn't working. And so I was like, I don't know, I don't want to just like order something off of Amazon and then it not be the right fit. And I'm like, well, maybe like a taxidermist or something would have something. I had never met a taxidermist. I assumed they were all like weird old guys. I have never had taxidermy, never been into it. And I ended up just calling the first number that showed up on Google. And it was so interesting because this voice on the other line, I was just like, whoa. First of all, this is a young guy. And second of all, there's just something about his voice. I don't know what it is. And he was so personable and so wanted to know about my art and all of just so friendly and, oh, send me a link and I want to look at your stuff. And he said, absolutely, I can help you out. And I was like, okay, cool. And I don't know, I ended up looking him up after because I was like, who is this guy? And he had an Instagram and there was one photo of him. And I was just like, oh, weird. The young guy, but I don't know. You know how guys take terrible photos of themselves. So it's just like, no, not into it. Anyway, I go to his house a couple days later to go pick up the skull hanger. And out walks this 6'3" handsome young man. And he's hi. And I'm like, hi. And it was just like all the energy, right? I left with a wolf skull that I purchased from him. Actually, it's one of my favorite pieces. It's on my website if you're interested. Magicmaven.com. You can check it out. And yeah, it was just really interesting. He started messaging me and I'm like, I don't know. It seems like this guy's really into me. Like, what is going on? And we decided to meet up. He was like, hey, let's go foraging. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, that would be amazing. He's like, do you like kids? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Do you like dogs? He's like, yeah, sure. So we met up for a little foraging hang. It wasn't officially a date or anything like that. But we met up and we were looking for cactus and some other things. And he brought us 3 boys. I brought 2 dogs. And yeah, just started connecting. The boys then asked if they could come back to my place and have tea. And I was like, what? You guys want to have tea? Or like, yeah, we want to go to your place and have tea. I'm like, okay. So we went back to the farm and I was showing him my studio space and all the things. And there was just like this energy of calm peace, which felt really lovely. And okay, this is the part of the story. You guys are gonna die, but oh, it's so full circle. So Bun Bun, my little bunny, she was being a bad girl. She did not want to stay in this beautiful space that she had to herself indoors. She kept trying to escape. She wanted to be outside. And I was like, okay, fine. You know what? I put her in the chicken coop, the little chicken coop. She had the garden she could run around in. She still escaped from there. And she ended up being free range Bun Bun. And I was just like, oh my God, this is bad. She's going to get eaten. But she was so happy. Like, I'd never seen her so happy. I'd never seen her do one binky, which is a thing where like bunnies run and they jump in the air and they wiggle their little bums. And it means like they're really happy. And I saw her do her first binky while she was like running around the farm in the mud. She had mud on her face. She was hanging out with the pigs, in with the chickens, and she just was living her best Bun Bun life. So I was like, okay, whatever happens, happens. And then she went missing. She was gone for about 2 days, 2 or 3 days at this point, and I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I'm a bad Bun Bun mom. And I just assumed she got eaten by something, and it was sad. But I was like, well, at least she was really happy in the end. One of the boys was playing behind the shop while we were all visiting, and we hear a little voice go, I found a bunny. And my sister and I look at each other, and we're just like, no. And so out walks the littlest son with my dead Bun Bun. And he's got her by the ears, flopping her around. And he's like, break her. I want to take her home. Dad, let's take her home and do taxidermy. And I'm just like, oh my God. I just, oh, so terrible. And my partner, he's just like, oh my God, nope, oh my God, nope, that's Krysta's pet. No, we're not going to do taxidermy. The boys are used to being around dead animals all the time, right? Keith is a big hunter. The taxidermy, all the things. And one starts throwing a fit because he wants to take my dead bunny home. And I'm just like, how is this my fucking life? Okay. So I think he assumed that we weren't going to hang out again. I cried a little bit. I pulled my shit together and managed to make it through the end of that hang. It's so funny now. Like, it was sad, but it was also funny. It was just like, what the fuck is actually happening? Anyway, I thought she just died of natural causes. Turns out somebody shot her. So it would have been like the neighbors who are crazy and I don't know who shoots a bunny. Absolutely horrifying. Anyway, I ended up giving her to Keith to preserve some of her things, like her little skull and her hide and stuff. And I'm going to make a little memorial. How weird has this relationship already started off, right? Like, holy shit. So, yeah, that was like the first thing. Then he starts messaging me and he's like, I like you. I think you're pretty. I think you're this, and we should hang out. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. Like, I really liked his energy, but I'm like, yo, like, I just got out of the psych ward a few months ago. Like, I'm not well. Like, I'm still dealing with shit every day. I don't think it's a good idea to start a relationship. But I don't know. Something was just like, yeah, do it. I think I cried at least 2 or 3 times on our first couple dates. Our first date actually ended up being at like a support group that he took me to. I found out on a call that we had that he does men's group and he loves doing therapy and personal growth and all of these things. And I'm like, huh, interesting. Because like a huge non-negotiable for me in relationship and why I've been single for so long is because hardly any men do this, but I won't date anybody that doesn't do this. But I need to be with somebody who prioritizes relationship, healthy relationship, and does men's work, has a lot of friends and community, their own stuff going on, and also is focused on personal growth. And so I was like, okay, that's wow, really? And to find that here, like I'm in buttfuck nowhere in one of the most redneck places on the planet. And I'm like, okay, well, the universe is super weird. I asked him for his astrology stuff. Right away, he gives it to me. His stepmom used to be into all of this healing stuff. She had a metaphysical and like health food store. And so I was like, oh, well, that's some big alignment. and I ran our pattern through the pattern app, and it was like, whoa, I've never had this with anyone, but straight up our connection was like soulmate. And they added this new feature to the app. It's called like vertex points or something. And apparently to have one with somebody is like a really big thing because they're like faded points. And we have two, which is wild. I also found out that he's 8 years younger than me. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm like way older than you, right? And he's like, yeah, I don't care. My ex-wife was older and I like being with wise women. So I was like, okay. But yeah, he continued to pursue me like really hard. And I'm actually going to have him on the podcast maybe 2 or 3 episodes from now because I want to have an episode around how love heals because we went through a lot of transformation together already. So that's pretty powerful. And just the experience that we both had when we first met. And yeah, it's pretty cool when you have a soul connection like that. Anyway, I had never been in relationships really where I was pursued like that, which was beautiful and what I really needed. And he was such a good space holder. I'd cry on dates because I allude to I'd gone through a hard time, but I didn't really tell him all the things. And for the first few dates, like I think it was just my ego kicking and screaming, but I was just like, eh, like I had the ick. And I was like, no, I don't know, just not that attracted to him or whatever. I don't know. Like I would be and then I wouldn't be. Like it was so strange. But what I would notice, and this goes back to the story that I was telling about that dude in Haida, I would come back from a date with him and I wouldn't have any symptoms. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's like a big thing. That's a really big thing because I know that my system is like so sensitive and so attuned. And the fact that I feel safe with this person and like better when I'm around him. And I would even notice that I would forget about what was happening with me when I was with him. So that really informed me and was really helpful. And then he started getting like more serious and wanted more commitment. And I was like, okay, I gotta tell him. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna get rid of this guy. I can't have any stress in my life. He's got a bit of a messy past. He's got all these kids, and I'm still a wreck. This is not good. This is not a good idea. So I'm just gonna tell him the story that'll scare the shit out of him and he'll run off, was my plan. So I invited him over and told him I had to tell him something. And so I told him everything that I've told you. Not as much detail, but yeah. And I'm sobbing. And he's sitting there and he's calm. And I finish my story. And I go, okay, well, now you know. So off you go. Feel free to run. And he looks at me and he's, well, fuck. Now I like you even more. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like, I'm a mess. And I might always be a mess. I have this curse. And he basically said, I can handle it. And like, I want that. And I choose you. And that was like a huge shift in my system because I've never been chosen, ever. Every relationship I've had, I've been abandoned, thrown aside, felt like a piece of trash, all the things. And so right there, it was just like, whoa, so much healing happened just like in that moment. And that's when I decided to just surrender to this man. And yeah, it's been really beautiful. We have so much shared vision and passion, and I've never connected with anyone like this before. He truly is the love of my life. And I'm excited that you guys are going to get to meet him too and learn more about his story and taxidermy and all of this stuff. He has a very deep connection to nature as well. He's a wonderful gardener. We were just doing a bunch of gardening yesterday. Yeah, it's so interesting. And it's funny because right at this time that I met him, another person came into my life. And also, things just started opening up. So my system started getting a little bit lighter because we were like healing together. And then work started showing up. And I mean, a lot at once. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, you cannot tell me that this is not divine intervention. Like, you cannot tell me that I just went through all of this shit, ended up where I ended up, had all of this space that was orchestrated, it felt like, for all of this time. And now it's here you go. Here's all the things because it was him. It was financial support. Also, this is a really crazy thing too. So I didn't work for an entire year, but I just always seemed to have money. My investments just somehow continued to support me. And I was just like, how the, because I had asked my guides, I'm like, how am I going to do? They're like, don't worry about it. You will be provided for. And so now, like, I'm really in the space of if there's lulls, like, I used to get so anxious and try to make stuff happen. And now I'm just like, I don't fucking care. Like, I just have to think back to what it was like when I wasn't doing anything and I just got to wake up in the morning and do whatever the hell I wanted. And you're just supported. And I think that my work in this lifetime, yeah, there is that level of suffering, right? But it's like I had to go through that in order to do what I'm doing now. And so that leads me into meeting. Do I even see his name yet? Or do I surprise you guys on the next episode? No, I'll say his name. That leads me to meeting Keegan. Okay, so I want to preface this by saying that I had a really wonderful woman reach out to me a few months prior, and I'm actually going to have her on the podcast. I met her at a really wonderful experience that I had a few years ago when I did forest school, and we've circled each other's orbit since then. She's actually really talented in working with astrology and was posting some stuff about how it's kind of like coming back to life. And she just reached out and was like, girl, like it sounds like you're really going through it. Do you want me just to take a quick peek into your chart? And I was like, yeah, sure, buddy. Like, I know what's going on, but have a look, see what you think. So and apologies for the background noise. Oh, wow. Yeah, that one was really annoying. The space that I'm in it's an indoor-outdoor space, and I wanted to be more immersed in nature while I was recording. But that does come with some additional sounds from time to time, like rednecks on motorized ATVs and sometimes chickens and dogs. So, yeah, I digress. So, yeah, she reaches out to me and I didn't give her any information as to what I had gone through. And she gives me a little lowdown on my chart, and it was actually really cool. A little bit of a different perspective. And she actually told me that in October, I would start meeting my people. She's, yeah, it looks like October, like things start coming together for you, and you're going to start meeting some of the people that you need in your life. And yeah, it was so wild because that was exactly when I met Keith and Keegan stepped into my life. So Keegan, I didn't really know him. I knew of him. I knew his old business partner. And I was actually supposed to be introduced to him just before I got sick. So, yeah, it was interesting. I was working with somebody who knew both of us and knew that I was transitioning out of wild remedies and was like, oh, there might be some synergy there. He has a company working in the microdose space, and me loving to create products, this person thought there might be some synergy and we were going to connect. The universe decided that I needed to die first. And apparently he was on a very similar path. So I think it was like January or February when things were really bad. I was, I don't know, on Instagram or something, and I saw this photo that he had posted. So we'd been following each other for a while, but just never really connected. And I see this post and it's a photo of him and he's just, oh my God, he looks like he was like a Holocaust survivor or something, like just skin and bones. And as I flip through the photos, it gets worse. And there's a image of him, just he's got his shirt off and he's just literally skin and bones and a huge incision from his chest down his whole stomach. And the last one was of him and his now wife, happy, but he still looks like he's recovering. And he shared just a little bit of his story, and I was just so deeply impacted. Like I mentioned, I found comfort in connecting with others that were going through hard things or that had gone through hard experiences, either similar to mine or just difficult situations. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, like, I'm so sorry that you went through this. And I'm going through something really hard right now, too. And I just want to let you know that I appreciate it. And I'm glad it looks like you're on the other side of it or doing better. And he replied and was really kind. And at some point, I had mentioned something about how a plant medicine journey there was like a catalyst there for my situation. And he replied and said something like, I did a plant medicine journey once too and was never the same after either. And I was like, interesting. Like, I didn't dig any further. I wasn't there. I wasn't in that space. So this is like well over a year ago. This is, yeah, January or February of 2024. Fast forward back to October. Yeah, so 8 or 9 months later, I'm up north and I'm finally starting to tinker with some of the old products that I was creating that I really loved. My magic creamer bar in particular. If you don't know what that is, I don't know, I probably have it in one of my highlights on Instagram, but it's this really incredible product that I made. It was like this huge divine inspiration thing that I had received when I was in Vancouver for a event. We were shortlisted for Product of the Year award with one of my products with Wild Remedies, and this new product idea came to me. And I just like feverishly drove around North Vancouver looking for all the ingredients to like make it, because this is what happens when I get like these hits. But basically, it looks like a chocolate bar, but it's not. It's made with cacao butter, and you break off a couple of squares and blend it in your coffee, and it makes like a bulletproof coffee. Except for it's way better, and it has functional ingredients in it and flowers, and it's flavored with culinary essential oils. So it's just fucking so good. Anyway, I was making my first magic creamer bar in like over a year. Yeah, it had been a really long time. And I was just like sad. And I'm like, oh man, this is such a good idea. It'd be really nice to be able to like have somebody be able to run with this. Because over this period too, and actually as my business was initially falling apart, I was really realizing that I wasn't in alignment with my gifts. I need to create. I need to have constant ideas and be creating constantly. Like I am way too creative of an individual to be in the spot of pushing a company forward when all I want to do is make new things and pivot all the time. And it's not that I don't have those capabilities, but so much of that is just, it's really masculine. And I just really needed to be realigned and be put into more of a feminine position and just focus on what I'm really good at, which is making things beautiful and making beautiful things. That's really my zone of genius. And products in particular that include plants and mushrooms. That's my very most favorite thing to do in the whole wide world. And I do everything from start to finish. And I have so much experience. I've been in the design industry for, God, I don't know, 17 years, 16, 17, 18 years, something like that. And I've built businesses from the ground up with my bare hands in so many different capacities. So I can do all the things, but what is always the most impactful is the branding and the product development and all of those pieces that I'm really good at. And that's where I can make really big, just the biggest impact and create things that people are really like, whoa. So yeah, making my little creamer bars. And I was like, oh, I love these things. I want them to go somewhere. I want the world to be able to see these. And I reached out to Keegan. I remembered that we were going to connect. I thought, you know what? I'm going to hit this guy up and just see. Like, we'd never chatted before. So I sent him a voice note and he got back to me right away and was like, yeah, dude, let's chat. And I divulged some of the information about what I had been going through. And he's okay, well, there's something else that I want to run by you then. We ended up having a call and I told him where I was, a little bit of what I had been through, what I was still currently dealing with. We talked about some of the medication and stuff that I was on. And that's when he brought up a new product that he was working on that actually works to replace the exact medication that I was on and wanted to be able to get off of. And he's, yeah, we're doing like a trial. Do you want to jump in? And at that time, I was still like, oh, I don't know, man. Like, I was still like pretty freaked out about like deviating from the plan. And just, I didn't want to add any more fuel to the fire. I talked to my naturopath about it and she's cool, but like also, you're on a bunch of shit right now and let's not fuck around and have to find out something that we don't want to find out. So I didn't join the trial, but did in the back of my mind and continued to bring it up with my naturopath. And we ended up connecting more, Keegan and I. And then I discovered his story and he just went full into it and I went full into mine. And we were both like, what the fuck? How is it that we've almost had, I'm not going to say the exact same experience, but the similarities are jaw-dropping. That's really all I can say. This manifested differently for us in our bodies, but we both almost died at the same fucking time. And a lot of the same characters that may have contributed to some of it. And like also there's us to blame too for things, but there's just all these like similar people that were involved. And we're like, what the fucking fuck? Like, this just feels like divine being brought together. And then we discovered that his skills perfectly match my skills and what his business was needing was exactly what I wanted to provide. And so we decided to start working together. And now I'm creating things that I just, oh my God, the level of like spirit and divinity that is woven into this position that I've been put in. It feels literally like I was thrown into some sort of like giant washing machine and tumbled and was just like in this twilight zone for a year. And then I was just spit out and I'm just following the breadcrumbs of my soul. And then it's just, okay, and here's a whole new life. And I'm like, okay, I was ready for a change. Like, did it need to be this hard? Did it really fucking need to be this hard? Because I could have figured something else out. Like, I was ready to go traveling, but that's the thing. Like, I was ready to go traveling. That was going to be my escape. I didn't know what to do when Wild Remedies went under, and I didn't know who to be. I didn't know what to do. And at that point, I was going to launch like a design course, and my plan was to just leave Canada and to travel. But I've done that whole thing before. And so there was something that was just like, no, like that's not also not it. And so there was like this whole other thing that was waiting for me. And I don't know how I would have gotten there without going through all of this, right? Like, how would I have met Keith? I would have never come to Northern BC. I would have never came up here. And I would have never met Keith if I hadn't gone through this horrific dark night of the soul and was wandering through the bush one day and found bones and was like, ooh, art. Like, what? There's this whole theme of like death and rebirth through the art that I'm creating, which is such a metaphor for my fucking life right now. And yeah, it brought me to him. And then now what I'm creating together with Keegan and some really incredible people, it just feels like such purpose. And a huge part of that is going to be around education too, because what he and I both experienced is something that a lot of light needs to be shed on, because there's some bad stuff going on in the wellness industry and in the psychedelic space. And people need to know about it, because there's folks getting away with some pretty gnarly stuff and people are getting injured. We both almost died. Like, it's some serious shit. And we both take responsibility for the parts that we played in that as well. But we also feel that where we've both been, it's important for us to share these stories so that we can hopefully save somebody else from having to experience it as well. And it's wild. Like, we're going to talk about some pretty intense stuff on the next episode. Okay, so this episode went a little bit longer than I thought, but I needed to get all of this information out because more of it is going to come together as these episodes progress. There'll be more information on these products that I'm creating, some of these incredible ingredients that we're working with now, these botanicals and mushrooms that have just fallen on my lap and are just so in alignment for what my system needs, but I know that other people need these things as well. And I'm excited to let you guys have a little bit of a sneak peek into my process and these products that I'm developing too. Like, they're for people who are in recovery, truly. And you know what I'm finding a lot in the microdose space, like, I've never been able to take a microdose and feel like it subperceptually. Like, I usually end up with mushroom yawns or like feeling high and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I took this so that my brain would work better at work, and now I'm high and I have meetings all day. So I'm developing things that are for highly sensitive individuals and people whose nervous systems really need support. Yeah. I'm just going to leave it there for now because we're going to dive into that more on later episodes. So next time, you're going to get to meet Keegan, the man whose path crossed mine at the edge of collapse and whose story is as raw and relentless as my own. And together we're creating a new kind of medicine. So don't miss this one. If this episode cracked you open, good. Share it far and wide so we can reach more people who are done pretending and ready to come home to themselves. To dive deeper into my world, explore Wildcrafted Apothecary and Sacred Art at magicmaven.com. Discover new tools for nervous system healing at mindfulmeds.io and Alchemy. Or bring your vision to life with me at the Brand Bruja. All the links and more are waiting for you in the show notes. Until next time, stay wild, stay rooted, and remember, you were made for this.